What's up, everybody? Welcome to Union Remix Church Online. You made it. Pastor Q here. We are so glad that you guys are able to tune in. This is why we do this. We do this so you could be here every Sunday at 6 p.m. At some point later on in the day, you will see a rebroadcast, and that's on purpose. Just in case you can't catch it at 6 p.m., we broadcast it later on in the day so you can catch up. So today, Pastor Kim is in his third week of his GON FISHIN series. And man, it's been a dope 3 weeks. The first week he led with Jesus in the parable of the net, telling us that Jesus is meant to catch all people. The gospel is meant for us to share it with everybody. So it's not about picking and choosing who you feel like you should share it with. But no, Jesus is the one who sorts. What do I mean by that? We go gather the fish, we gather, he sorts. That was Cam's big message in that first week of his series. The second week, he led off with acceptance, asking the glaring question, is there any particular sin in a person's life that you may know or love that's preventing you from being Christ-like with them, especially loving them the way that Jesus would? And today, he's in his third week where he's focusing on prayer, because let's be honest, nobody ain't about to do any of this with no prayer. And the glaring thing that Cam is having us focus on is in James chapter 5, verses 13 to 16. He wants us to focus on how James is saying to pray about every single thing. Even if the matter includes you going to elders in the church, pray, pray, pray. And not only that, Cam is calling us to look inside of ourselves and ask, do we actually love prayer? Well, that could be really subjective, right? How do you look at your prayer time with God? It's not about you just asking for a bunch of things and you talking. But at some point, you want to be quiet. You want to be still, and you want to listen for the voice of the Lord. You want to hear what he has to tell you and what he has for you specifically. So we're in the third week. I'm so glad you guys were able to tune in. Let's tune into Pastor Cam's series, GON FISHIN, third week, prayer. Pray like you love it. Let's tune in. Let's get it.
Sure. I just have a big mouth during it. Some of us also have big mouths. Some of us have big hearts. Some of us have big loyalty. Some of us have big creativity. Some of us have big endurance. Some of us have big empathy and understanding. Some of us will show up when there's more fans in the room than people. So tonight, on week 3, we speak on the power of prayer. When we, as the body, struggle with how to love like Jesus, how to accept like Jesus, how to use our big qualities, what does James say to do? Pray. Here in James, we get a small slice of what prayer is like for him and how it should be for us. James is saying that for us Christians, this prayer thing is not just a side dish. It doesn't just happen on a whim or by impulse. It's not just what you say before you eat or the quick recite before you sleep. For the golfer, this is not your 3-wood or your 5-iron. The clubs you use sparingly or only on some holes. This prayer thing, it's your putter. The most important club. The one you need every hole. Just listen to James this evening. Hear his passion and commitment to prayer. His energy to throw it in everywhere. understands that this is the heart of the connection, the salt, and the flavor of your love with Jesus. Is anyone in trouble? Let him pray. Suffering? Pray. Are you happy? Songs of praise. Anyone sick? Pray. Anyone who is sinning, confess and pray. Prayers of the righteous are powerful and effective. Can you hear the energy? His willingness to pray fervently and often. His understanding that this is the key to enhancing our relationship with Christ. How will you know Jesus? If you don't take the time to speak with him. Friends, tonight, I believe James is opening the door for us to fall back in love with prayer. To put the comfort and the care back into prayer like we love it. To not only go through the motions anymore, but to invest ourselves in the idea that prayer can be overwhelming. About 5 years ago, I bought a record player. You know, with a turntable and a needle that plays vinyl records. I like the old school feel that the music brings. I like to hear the crack in the vinyl and the pure sound of a true recording. And I like the time it takes. The music world has shifted into a singles day. One new hit song can make you radio worthy. Back in the day, these records were made. The artist took time to think about the order of songs we would hear and the progression of emotions through an album. Sometimes there was a theme or concepts developed or followed musically. And the artist took the time to produce the music with the long play in mind. And as a fan, it took more of your own time to invest into liking the bands that you did. You couldn't skip songs as easily, and so you had to look forward to times where you could dedicate to listening and living the music. People listened to whole sides, not whole songs. And they took more time to care about what they heard and who they heard it from. My friend said nowadays he can put 1,000 songs in any order on his smartphone and store it away. There's a case to protect the impact and the wear and tear. But if I want to hear my vinyl again, it takes more care. I have to grab it by the sides so I don't get fingerprints on it. I slip it into its original sleeve. That sleeve slides into a cardboard gatefold. And that all slides into another cellophane cover. I store them vertically so the weight of the records won't bend them over time. Family. This is the type of care that we're speaking of tonight. God says He will return us a measure pressed down and overflowing. But I believe it's our job as Christians to do our part. Let's put our work in too. And let's fall back in love with prayer. Let it be the song in your head. Let's look forward to a time in the day that you can dedicate to it. Take time to unwrap it. Use the right handle and care. Watch your fingerprints. Place it in the center. And when you drop the needle, be careful not to scratch anything. Friends, James is calling us to care for our prayer. Sometimes we got to put the work in too. Get on your knees, take your shoes off, open yourself up, be honest and passionate with God, and strengthen this bond together with prayer. Have the faith to pray like you love it. Amen. During our last song tonight, I like to say that God is going to get to you wherever you're sitting, but He's also here at the altar. So if you feel led and you want to bring yourself to the altar tonight during our last song, it's always open, and we'll be here for you.
Man, that was a powerful word. At the end of every single sermon, what do we want you guys to do online? We want you to think about what you heard today. What was something that Pastor Cam said that stuck with you? What's something that you can go on throughout the whole entire week just thinking about? What can you improve on when it comes to prayer, when it comes to accepting others, when it comes to picking and choosing who you're Christ-like with? We all need work in these areas. But most of all, what we want you to focus on as our online community that we're trying to grow, and we want you to be a part of this church, and we love you and we care about how your relationship with Jesus is flourishing. We want you to be thinking about the things that you heard today. Meditate on it. Talk to God about it. And remember that when you're praying, you can only pray like you love it if you enjoy the person that you're spending time with. And how do you enjoy that person? By trusting them. And how do you trust them? Well, God doesn't lie. He never has, and He won't start. At the end of the day, the reason why we want you to have these things settled on your heart is because we don't want you tuning in online to be just a one and done. We don't want you just here on Sundays and not thinking about anything else. We want you to meditate on the Word. We want you to grow in the Lord, and we want you to grow in this community. So what did Pastor Cam say today that stuck with you? He said a lot that stuck with me. So we want you to go throughout the week thinking about that, and we'll see you here next week at 6 p.m. live. Peace.